Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Eliminating Distracted Driving. My name is Dave Galbraith. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Risk Management, Technical Lead at Amerisure Insurance, and I'll be your moderator for this afternoon. As many of you know, Amerisure is one of the nation's leading providers of commercial insurance. We specialize in managing risk for business in construction, manufacturing, and healthcare. We are licensed to do business in all 50 states and have been in business for over 100 years. There are over 750 Amerisure employees, with our headquarters located in Farmington Hills, Michigan, and 12 strategically located core service centers around the country. Today, we will be discussing the dangers of distracted driving and the steps you should be taking to eliminate it from your workplace to protect your employees, other drivers on the road, and your bottom line. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. I'll bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end. Due to the number of attendees and to avoid background interference, all attendees are muted and will remain muted for the duration of the webinar. If at any time during the webinar you experience issues, please contact Amerisure Help at the number provided in your invitation. Our presenters today are Todd Bernardoni and Marcus Raspberry. Todd has been a part of the Amerisure Risk Management team for over 11 years and holds a master's degree in occupational safety management from Indiana State University. Marcus has been a part of the Amerisure team since 2016 and is currently pursuing his associate in risk management and associate safety professional designation. Both Todd and Marcus have a wealth of knowledge to share, so without further ado, I will turn the time over to our experts. Marcus?
Thanks, Dave. In today's training, we're going to define what distracted driving is, provide statistics and facts about distracted driving, and how or when it can occur. We're going to also provide some resources and guidance on how you can show a commitment to not driving distracted. In this section, we're going to discuss exactly what qualifies as distracted driving. There are three main types of distractions: visual, manual, and cognitive. Let's discuss some scenarios where you might take your eyes off of the road, demonstrating a visual distraction. The first would be looking for your next turn. Next, seeing someone that you may know. And third, driving by a police officer or an accident. A manual distraction entails taking your hands off of the wheel. This includes reaching for something, adjusting a setting in the car radio, eating, drinking, reading, or grooming. Next, we have cognitive distractions, which is when the driver takes their mind off of driving. This can happen when you're thinking about family situations, stress, thinking about an upcoming meeting. A distraction can also occur in any one of the combination of the above categories. If your mind and eyes are not paying attention to the job of driving, your response time is going to drastically be reduced when you decide to look up and now have to respond to the traffic or other activities that are going on around you. In the left picture, we can see that the two occupants in the vehicle are talking. This can be either visual, cognitive, or both types of distractions. In the middle picture, we can see this person is looking in the mirror, putting on lipstick. This can be visual, manual, or cognitive types of distractions. In the picture on the right, the person is eating. Like the others before, this can be a visual, manual, or cognitive type of distraction. If we take a moment to think about our recent commutes, how many of us can identify a time when we were distracted? I know I can. Now take a moment and look at this picture. What do you see in this picture that could cause a distraction? We will point out the distractions in the next slide, but I would want you to think about what you would do if you got into a car and saw all of these things. What does it tell you about the behaviors of this driver? Will you want this person driving your company-owned vehicle, or driving for a company business in their own vehicles. An MVR report does not always tell the entire story. So as we look at this slide here, we identify that the person driving this vehicle has an electric razor, a cell phone, a drink, a food bag, and also an accessory plug.
In the next section, we're going to study the statistics and laws that govern distracted driving in individual states. Let's take a look at the cost of one on-the-job crash to employees. If the crash causes property damage only, employers can expect to spend nearly $6,000. If an injury occurs, the cost goes up to $6,500 or $65,000 on average. In the event of a fatality, employers could be facing an average payment of $670,000. It's no surprise that insurance premiums are also likely to rise. Criminal penalties are also a possibility. Occupational motor vehicle accidents are the #1 cause of workplace deaths. They are the cause of approximately 2,400 deaths per year and represent nearly half of all workplace fatalities. In addition, on-the-job crashes account for nearly 1.4 million missed workdays nationwide. Distracted driving incidents alone cost U.S. employers $8.2 billion with a B dollars per year. Texting while driving is very common and involves all three types of distraction, a deadly combination. 11 teenagers die every day due to texting and driving. 94% of teenagers understand the consequences of texting while driving, but 35% of them admit to doing it anyway. 10% of adults and 20% of teens admit to having entire conversations over text messages while driving. We've all heard or said the phrase, "we're a good multitasker," but the case is you can never pay attention to two things at once. 77% of adults and 55% of teenagers say they can easily manage texting and driving. 25% of car accidents in the United States are caused by texting while driving. It takes an average of 3 seconds after a driver's mind is taken off the road for any accident to occur, and this is the bare minimum and surprisingly small. When you consider that drivers who send or receive text messages focus their attention away from the road on average of 4.6 seconds, the chance of getting in an accident are alarmingly high. At 55 miles an hour, taking your eyes off the road for 4.6 seconds is the equivalent of driving the length of a football field while blindfolded. Additionally, talking on the phone and using a handheld device delays a driver's reaction time as much as having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08% and increases the chances of getting into an accident by a factor of 4. Now let's take a look at the distracted driving laws across the United States. Laws vary from state to state, but there's only 2 states, Arizona and Montana, that have no statewide distracted driving laws implemented. These 2 maps break down the laws for each state, with the dark blue indicating a ban for all drivers, light blue indicating a partial ban, and red indicating no ban at all. As you can see, texting while driving is illegal in 47 states. It's important to keep in mind that the laws are different for Department of Transportation number vehicles, which we will cover on the next slide. As mentioned on the previous slide, distracted driving laws are different for the Department of Transportation numbered vehicles. The DOT laws are enforced nationwide and prohibit drivers from unsafely reaching for a device, holding a mobile phone, or pressing multiple buttons while operating in interstate commerce. Commercial driving vehicle drivers using a mobile phone can still use a mobile phone and still obey the DOT rules by utilizing an earpiece or a speakerphone function and using voice-activated or one-button touch features to initiate, answer, or terminate a call. Drivers who fail to comply with DOT laws face penalties up to $2,750 for a driver, and disqualification for multiple offenses. Employers who allow or require drivers to use handheld devices while driving face a penalty up to $11,000.
So what can we do to change driving behaviors to minimize distracted driving? Amerisure's risk management consultants are trained to assist you on your path to safety in preventing distracted driving at your company. In this section of the webinar, we will discuss the value of a recognition and enforcement program, cell phone blocking technology, and fleet safety training, a distracted driving policy, and implementing telematics into your fleet. It is important to establish a reward or incentive program. You can help improve safety by rewarding good driver behavior and incorporating it into your employee performance reviews. Management feedback to drivers is critical to goal achievement. Feedback should be timely and on an as-needed basis. Feedback can be completed with an individual or group setting. Feedback and coaching, positive and negative, should be consistently provided to all individuals. Acceptable and unacceptable behavior modification tools based on overall driver score, specific behaviors defined as targeted benchmark activities, driver improvement in overall score or specific behavior targeted, duration of time a driver exhibits the criteria, such as speeding, idle time, and acceleration time. Positive reinforcement should include additional time off, bonus, prioritized work shifts and schedules, newer vehicles, and other rewards deemed by management. Negative incentives include additional training, vehicle ride-alongs, verbal warnings, written warnings, loss of company driving privileges, and other appropriate discipline up to and including termination. When looking at cell phone blocking technology, 55% of drivers say they would leave preset blocking technologies in place on their cell phones to avoid being distracted. There are 5 key features to consider when choosing a cell phone blocker for your fleet. The first one has to do with safety options. The best systems will block incoming and outgoing calls, texting, social media, and internet access. The second has to do with battery life. Since many blockers are always active, they can drain a phone's battery fairly quickly. Be sure the blocker doesn't adversely affect the battery. Third has to do with compatibility. Can it work with all cell phone types? The fourth has to do with an online dashboard. How easy is it to use and understand? And the fifth has to do with default settings. Check what the default settings are and how they can be adjusted. According to the National Safety Council, 25% of all collisions are caused by phone-related distracted driving. We are pleased to share that Amerisure is currently partnering with Lifesaver, a mobile app which uses telematics to discourage drivers from using cell phones while driving. When a driver attempts to use their cell phone, the app will show a visual block or reminder to not use the phone. Any Amerisure policyholder with a commercial insurance policy is eligible to receive Amerisure's cost-sharing benefit just by signing up for the Lifesaver app. Sign a 12-month contract with Lifesaver, and Amerisure will reimburse you for 30% of the cost of the contract, or sign a 24-month contract with Lifesaver, and Amerisure will reimburse you for 30% of the cost of the contract. Simply provide Amerisure Risk Management a copy of your signed Lifesaver contract and a copy of your organization's W-9 to receive the 30% reimbursement from Amerisure. If you're interested in signing up for Lifesaver, please contact your Amerisure Risk Management consultant today, as the Lifesaver program is based on limited availability. Employee safety training is absolutely critical. Amerisure's former fleet safety training program covers 7 essentials of fleet safety. The first element of a safe fleet is having appropriate policies and procedures in place that apply to all drivers. It's important to mention that all drivers includes drivers of non-owned vehicles as well as all company vehicles. Another crucial aspect of fleet safety is the commitment of upper management. This is one of the most important elements of the program, as management has the influence to create a culture of safety within the organization. Screening and selecting qualified drivers and managing the screening process is the third essential to maintaining a safe fleet. Next, we have effective ongoing driver training. While formal training programs are important, and ongoing training throughout the year is the key to developing safety-conscious employees. The fifth essential to fleet safety is driver accountability. Then we have the importance of knowing how to manage an accident when it does occur. Accidents do happen, and it's important to be prepared. Lastly, implementing a formal fleet maintenance program is beneficial for both the driver's safety and your bottom line. The goal of fleet safety training is for employees to feel more knowledgeable about the root causes of accidents and feel empowered with the information they receive so they are able to implement the tools provided and begin a more proactive approach to controlling losses. You can find a sample distracted driving policy on Amerisure.com, and it can be used as an addition to your fleet safety program. It is important to note that compliance with the company policy increases when an employee is required to sign off that they have read and will be held accountable to a policy. The best policy covers all employees, all handheld and hands-free devices, all company vehicles, all company mobile phone devices, and all work-related communication.